A month after my boyfriend vanished without warning, his wealthy suddenly appeared at my door. She glanced at the convenience store where I worked, her lips curling into a soft sneer. "Not much to speak of," she remarked, her voice laced with disdain. "It seems Anthony's taste has declined quite a bit during this bout of amnesia." Her words took me by surprise, but I quickly composed myself and held out the QR code. "So, you're the perfect timing, could you settle the medical bills? Your owes me." Miss Lin made it clear she believed class wasn't something that could be transcended by the so-called true love of an ordinary person. A bottle of water landed on the counter, interrupting my thoughts. I looked up to see Selena, the Liu family's young lady, standing there. It had been over 2 weeks since her last visit to the store. I knew why she was here now. Last time, she had revealed that Anthony was the missing prince of the Han family. Since then, Anthony had been showing up outside my rental apartment every day for nearly a week. With her temperament, it was no surprise that Selena, as his couldn't remain idle. But I had no interest in becoming a pawn in their wealthy marriage games. "A total of 7 yuan, I said with a professional smile. "Will you pay by scan or cash?" Selena hesitated, then raised her phone. I swiftly scanned the code. "Thank you for your patronage," I said, keeping my tone neutral. "As a third party, Miss Lin's composure is truly admirable," Selena said, her voice deliberately loud enough for the nearby customers to hear. Curious eyes turned toward me, full of speculation and gossip. I met her words with a calm smile. "Whether I'm the third party or the victim, Miss Liu knows better than anyone. If you'd like to discuss this matter here, I wouldn't mind explaining it thoroughly from start to finish." My voice was steady, unyielding. Anthony had only returned to the Han family and gotten engaged to Selena after he disappeared. Now, he was the one pursuing me. The label of third party couldn't be pinned on me. I glanced pointedly at a customer who was secretly taking photos with their phone. Selena followed my gaze, her expression shifting as she whispered instructions to her assistant. Then she addressed me. "Let's talk outside." "I'm sorry, but it's my working hours," I replied coolly. I gestured to the customer behind Selena. "Could you please let the next customer through?" "Thank you." Selena, unwilling to back down, turned to my manager. Her assistant, meanwhile, was dealing with customers who had been taking photos. In the end, my manager caved and personally ushered me into Selena's car. Across the street, I noticed a discreet black RLX parked, Anthony's car. Yet he remained inside, showing no intention of stepping out. It was almost amusing. Inside the car, Selena remained silent for a long time. I leaned back in the rear seat and closed my eyes. Luxury cars truly lived up to their reputation. The comfort of the seat was undeniable. My calmness seemed to unnerve Selena. "Miss Lin, you really are different from what I imagined," she finally said, her voice tinged with both frustration and curiosity. I opened my eyes and met her gaze. "What exactly did you imagine?" I asked. "That I'd be vain, clinging to Anthony with dreams of marrying into wealth." Her expression betrayed her thoughts. I smiled faintly. "For ordinary people like us, a single bad review or complaint from a client means bowing and apologizing. Knowing full well that you came with ill intentions, I was still pushed into your car because of your status. What makes you think you understand the gap between our social classes better than we do?" Selena's brow furrowed, clearly dissatisfied with my words. "Not everyone desires a life like yours," I added. "Is that so?" She shot back, her tone probing and sarcastic. "Then why didn't you reject Anthony when he came to find you? If you're unhappy with Anthony coming to me, why not take it up with him instead of confronting me?" I countered. "With the Liu family's influence, you could have pressured Anthony to yield in countless ways. Yet you came to me, knowing I'm innocent in all of this. Why? Because I'm the easiest, softest target?" Selena looked stunned, clearly not expecting such blunt honesty. I tapped on the car window, gesturing toward the RLX across the street. "The truth is, Anthony feels the same way. If he truly cared about me, he'd have resolved the engagement properly before seeking me out. Instead, like you, he wants to keep the benefits of the marriage while pressuring me into compromise. The root of your problem isn't me, but you. Both find it easiest to push the blame onto me." I sighed, opened the car door, and stepped out. Bending slightly, I looked back at Selena. Selena, when I saved Anthony, it was out of kindness. Anthony deceived me emotionally, betraying my goodwill. Are you sure you want to spend the rest of your life with someone like that? And living as the pampered wife of the Han family are? You certain that's the life you want? Selena's gaze flickered toward the scars on my hand, confusion flashing across her face. She began, but I didn't give her the chance to finish. Smiling, I left the car and crossed the street, opening the RLX door to pull Anthony out. The stage was returned to them. At that moment, my friend Maria arrived on her little electric scooter, ready to pick me up after work. Seeing Anthony and Selena standing by the car, Maria quickly pulled me onto the scooter. She twisted the throttle all the way, and we sped away. Anthony glanced in the direction I was leaving, then turned to Selena, ultimately choosing to stay. Once we entered the community on the little electric scooter, Maria stopped and looked back. That guy didn't follow us, did he? She asked. He won't, I replied flatly. After all, his legitimate is still there. As long as he's concerned about the marriage between the Han and Liu families, he'll have to give his an explanation first, I added. Maria caught onto my meaning, and indignation flashed across her face. Damn. Having what's in the bowl but still eyeing what's in the pot, she fumed. He's shameless. I didn't respond. Maria was absolutely right. Anthony was shameless. Are you okay with this? Maria asked, concerned. After all, you were. I offered her a faint smile. I'm fine. If you'd known he was this much of a scumbag, you should have just left him at the police station, Maria said heatedly. You shouldn't have cared whether he lived or died. And renting a place just to take care of him, that's ridiculous. When I first found Anthony, my instinct was to avoid trouble and take him straight to the police station. But his identity, as the Han family's young master, had been kept so well hidden that the police couldn't uncover any clues. And Anthony, having lost his memory, refused to let anyone else near him. He would only follow me. Thinking about how Aunt Lynn once took me in, I softened and brought him back with me. I even rented a room here, using my savings from part-time jobs. To get a better deal, I paid 2 years' rent up front. Now, there were just 3 months left. That evening, as Maria and I prepared to set up our stall on the overpass, she reminded me not to forget my medicine. After Anthony disappeared, I had spent countless sleepless nights going to the police station, searching the accident site, and neglecting my own health. I lost over 20 pounds, and my stomach was now permanently affected. Looking back, it all seemed ridiculous. Someone like me, who knew how to read and manipulate people's emotions since childhood, fell for Anthony's so-called innocence. During his amnesia, when we headed downstairs, we ran into Anthony in the hallway. I could guess what he wanted to say, and it didn't interest me in the slightest. I avoided him with Maria, but he reached out and grabbed my arm. Amanda, he said. Mr. Han, please have some self-respect, I replied coldly, glancing back at him. My icy gaze caught him off guard. He seemed surprised that I, usually mild-tempered, could have such a sharp edge, but he didn't let go and held onto my arm even tighter. I've already talked to Selena, he said. I'll take you to Hong Kong. As long as you're not in the capital, she won't bother you anymore. Anthony, I said firmly, do you even realize what you're saying? You want me to abandon my studies and become your secret mistress in Hong Kong. My words made my anger bubble to the surface despite my usual emotional control. Amanda, don't talk to me like that, he said. If you don't want to hear it, then leave. I snapped, clenching my fists as memories of the past year and a half came flooding back. Amanda, he pleaded, we've been through so much together. I know you have feelings for me, so don't act like this. Before I could respond, Maria couldn't hold back anymore. She dropped her bag to the ground and pointed at Anthony, her voice full of fury. You bastard. How dare you talk about feelings with Amanda, she shouted. Do you even know what she went through while you were missing? She worried herself sick, ruined her stomach, and lost so much weight. And what were you doing? Getting engaged to the Liu family's young lady. You're trash. Stop talking about feelings, you're disgusting. And now you want Amanda to abandon her studies to run away with you to Hong Kong. Do you have any idea how much she's sacrificed to attend B University? She's pursuing a master's and doctoral degree. If she gives up now, all those years will go to waste. How dare you try to ruin her future with a few casual words? You're a complete jerk, Maria, Anthony warned, but I stepped forward, blocking her and meeting his gaze directly. Anthony, I said, I won't go to Hong Kong. Don't interfere with my life anymore. Stop playing this disgusting game of keeping a mistress in front of me. Anthony tried again. Amanda, if you want to study, I can arrange the best schools for you. If you go to Hong Kong, you can have a life 1,000 times better than this. Later, as we finished packing up, Maria finally pieced everything together, realizing the full extent of Anthony's audacity. What does he mean by all this? She asked. Does he think he can force you into this? Her indignation only deepened as we walked back to my apartment, Anthony's words still lingering like an unwanted shadow. I silently nodded. Anthony really meant that. Damn, are these domineering CEOs crazy? Can't they understand human language? Do they have to express love this way? Maria cursed. Maria, don't romanticize the bias of power as love. I said lightly, it's not that he can't understand human speech, but rather that his current power allows him to choose not to understand. The essence of many things in this world boils down to power. Why do domestic abusers hesitate to unleash their violence outside the home? Why do so many criminals target the weak, like women and children? Because they know exactly who lacks power and can't fight back. And now, to Anthony, I am that powerless weakling. With just a slight exertion of the power he wields, he could easily destroy everything I've worked for and leave me with no way out. Selena comes from a wealthy family, so even if he doesn't truly care for her, Anthony will still lower himself to negotiate with her, causing mutual interests to achieve his goals. But to him, I'm just a helpless orphan. Even if he claims to love me, it means nothing. He can still coerce me without hesitation. Amanda, what are you going to do in the future? Maria asked with a shiver. What if that idiot Anthony really forces you to quit school? Should we report this to the police first? I glanced at the recording on my phone and shook my head. There's no substantial evidence. Reporting him would be useless. Besides, someone like Anthony has plenty of people who can take care of things perfectly, without leaving a trace. Then what should we do? Maria asked, her face full of worry. Don't worry, I reassured her, patting her hand. I'll handle it. You have a plan. Maria's eyes lit up. I nodded. Amanda, you're amazing, Maria said, wrapping her arms around me without hesitation. To be honest, sometimes I feel like you're one of those lost heiresses from a TV drama. You've always been different from the rest of us. Even when you work part-time, it's like you're just experiencing life. Maria began reminiscing about the past, chattering away. Then she leaned closer to me. By the way, what are you planning to do? Are you going to pull off some revenge scheme? Like one of those powerful female leads who shocks everyone, looking into her clear, wide eyes. I smiled faintly and gestured toward the clock. The dormitory's about to close, I reminded her. She checked the time, hurriedly packed her things, and left. I stood by the window, watching her ride off, on her little electric scooter. Then I picked up my phone, looked at the photo Anthony had sent of Maria and my sister Cecilia, and dialed his number. Anthony, what do you mean by this? Are you threatening me with Maria and Cecilia? I asked directly. Amanda, he replied, you know I care about you. My marriage with Selena is just a business arrangement. The only person I love is you. I don't want to give up on what we have. So, you're using your power to trample on my life and dignity, all in the name of what you call love. I laughed bitterly. Anthony, you chose to marry into the Han family. I've never blamed you for that, nor have I regretted saving you or dating you. Love losing to interests is nothing new in this world. As an adult, you made your choice, and now you must live with the consequences. But you want to have it all. Don't you think that's a bit too greedy? Amanda, I know this is hard for you to accept, Anthony said. But think about it, what's wrong with going to Hong Kong? You want to continue your studies, right? I can help you find the best mentors. You wouldn't have to struggle anymore, juggling work and school. I can give you a life far better than what you'll ever achieve with your graduate and doctoral studies. Isn't that worth considering? It's the first time I've heard someone describe being a kept woman so refreshingly and uniquely, I sneered. So, Anthony, you really don't intend to let me go, do you? Amanda, I'm doing this for our future. I didn't let him finish. I hung up the phone. There aren't many stories where the heroine always wins, and reality isn't some one-on-one chess match. With a third party involved, the balance of power remains uncertain. Taking a deep breath, I dialed another number. I knew you'd call. Selena's voice came through the line. I've been wondering who Amanda really is, she said. At 17, you earned 300,000 yuan to pay for your aunt's medical treatment, and now, you're working in a small convenience store just to make ends meet. I didn't expect you to be Charlotte. In the private room of a restaurant, I sat back in the leather chair, picking up the teacup in front of me. Taking a sip, I said, I haven't had black tea this good in a long time. Selena sat across from me, glancing at the birthday card on the table. She smiled. If you'd told me earlier that it was your birthday, I would have treated you to even better tea. Actually, this restaurant has very good service. Especially suitable for celebrating birthdays. The owner's photography skills are excellent and the photos have a great atmosphere. I put down the teacup, looked around at the decorations in the store, and smiled. A year ago, Anthony brought me to this very private room. At that time, he worked part-time delivering food for 2 whole months just to bring me here for a birthday celebration. He ordered this birthday set, but now, don't you think people's hearts are very changeable? You didn't invite me here just to talk about this, did you? Selena said. I raised an eyebrow and took out a jewelry box from my bag, opening it and placing it on the table. Inside was a new pair of tassel earrings from Selena's self-created jewelry brand RW Spirit Moon series. I picked up one earring and looked at the decorative mirror beside me. And while putting it on, I said, very beautiful, and it has your personal style. It's just a pity that it was suppressed by the Leo headquarters, and the brand also lacks an event that can be remembered by the public. Hey, Selena let out a light laugh, picked up another one and personally helped me put it on. It seems you did your homework before coming here. You never fight an unprepared battle. This is indeed your style. Although Selena is the only daughter of the Liu family's main branch, her father died early and Liu's old man favored sons over daughters, let alone the brothers from the second branch. In the eyes of Liu's old man, she is even inferior to the illegitimate children left by her father. It is already not easy for her to stand her ground in the Liu family. How could those people in the Liu family really give her a chance to demonstrate her abilities? I didn't respond to her, just picked up my phone. No matter what the dream you told me about years ago of having your own brand has now been realized. So it's worth taking a commemorative photo, right? You? Selena looked at me inquisitively, but did not refuse my request. I tucked my deliberately curled long hair behind my ear, revealing the earrings on my ear, and then slightly leaned toward Selena. Selena glanced at the photo I took. The large wavy hair, and the simple pure black turtleneck knitted dress made the earrings on my ears a perfect highlight in the picture without being too overwhelming. Maybe I should ask you to be a model. She sighed and said directly, I don't want to beat around the bush with you. If you were still the Charlotte Liu of the past, I would certainly choose to help you. But times have changed. The Liu family is now under Martin's control. Given your relationship with Martin, will the Liu family still recognize you as the second miss? Selena shook her head. So what's your condition? I asked her. Selena raised an eyebrow, deliberately making a puzzled expression. I laughed and said, with your personality, would you agree to Anthony send me to Hong Kong to be taken care of, just waiting for me to come to find you? She had been suffering from her father's illegitimate sons bullying her whole life. How could she allow her to do the same? It's really boring to be seen through so quickly, she said. Since that's the case, I'll be straightforward. Back then, when I was bullied by my dad's illegitimate son and the second wife, you were the one who reached out to help me. It was you, the second miss of the Liu family, who was willing to be friends with me, giving me the chance to prove myself in front of my grandfather and escape from that bullying. But just like you said back then, you only gave me 1 semester of opportunity. Whether I can use the identity of the second miss of the Liu family to establish myself in the Liu family is my own matter. It's the same now. For the sake of what happened back then, I can take a gamble. But you must first show me the value of this gamble. Selena looked at me. I nodded. That's fair. But I don't understand. Back then you would rather deceive Martin into faking his death than leave the Liu family, and now just because Anthony wants to send you to Hong Kong, you are willing to expose yourself? Selena asked. I didn't explain, I just showed him the photo that Anthony sent me. He threatened you. He dares to threaten the Liu family. Selena laughed. This Anthony, if he ever dies at your hands, it wouldn't be unfair at all. It doesn't matter. What matters is that this week's launch event for the Han and Liu family's new project will definitely be exciting. I stood up, picked up the canvas bag on the table, and gently flicked the tassel on the earrings with my fingers. Don't forget to give me my commission for the sales when the time comes. Mr. Liu. Mr. Liu. I heard Selena behind me softly laughing as she repeated the 2 words. When I got home and opened the door, I found that the pen core hidden in the lock was broken. I let out a cold laugh, glanced around the room, and quickly noticed the places that had been tampered with. When I left Liu's house, I was always afraid of being discovered by the Liu family. Did they think such petty tricks could monitor me? I found a spot, switched to my WeChat alternate account, and first posted a social circle. It was a photo of me and Selena, but I cropped out Selena. Caption: Received the earrings sent by baby love at heart. Immediately, someone replied below, "Oh my god, what's going on?" The bamboo leaf blogger actually showed their face. Wow, what a beautiful woman. Isn't this the Yu family's private restaurant over by the East Gate? These earrings are really pretty. Did your boyfriend give them to you? I glanced at the messages while removing my makeup and chatted with Maria. Amanda, I'm sorry. When I returned to my hometown, Cecilia had already been taken away by someone. Maria said anxiously and with guilt, I should have come back earlier. I said, Maria, Anthony is acting recklessly because of his power. This is not your fault. During this time you should take care of yourself in your hometown. No matter what news I have here, don't worry about it. Amanda, you wouldn't really give up your studies to go to Hong Kong for me and Cecilia, would you? If that's the case, Aunt Lynn won't be at ease either. Maria said, don't think about these things. I glanced at the painting on the shelf behind me in the mirror, and replied, just trust me. After hanging up the voice call, I walked to the shelf, pried open the frame, and took out the hidden camera. At the same time, I received a text from an unknown number. I am thinking of your safety. I looked at the camera and said, Anthony, threatening surveillance and personal control, and you say it's for my sake. Don't you find that disgusting? After I finished speaking, I threw the camera into the trash can. Of course, I know that the person who installed the camera is Anthony. But I also know that this unknown source of information alone cannot prove anything. Now is not the time to let these matters affect the next step of the plan. I took a deep breath, laid down on the bed, and quietly stared at the ceiling. I recalled the night many years ago, when my biological mother jumped from the roof of the Liu family's bee garden. 5 days later, just 1 hour before the project launch conference of the Han and Liu families, a trending topic titled #Han Family. Heir suspected of hiding a beauty and celebrating her birthday intimately suddenly appeared. Then more marketing accounts released photos of Anthony taking me to a high-end restaurant for my birthday when he had amnesia. Meanwhile, someone dug up that I am the blogger Bamboo Leaf, and they also released screenshots of me showing off my earrings in the social circle. The comment section quickly recognized that the earrings I was wearing were from Selena's jewelry brand, RW Spirit Moon Series new collection. No way using earrings designed by the two. Please the mistress, rich people really know how to play. Is Mr. Han really blind? His is a wealthy young lady, a designer, rich, beautiful, and talented, yet he still wants a mistress. Just because of the mistress's face. To be fair, Bamboo Leaf's looks and education are both quite impressive. Could it be a misunderstanding? Bamboo Leaf has been helping impoverished girls in mountain areas for years, and last month she donated sanitary napkins to several mountain high schools. She doesn't seem like someone who would be a mistress. It's all about the persona of how many internet celebrities have fallen from grace. However, the design of this young lady's earrings is really beautiful. After a series of public opinion fermentations, this event, facilitated by the marriage between the Han and Liu families, was hosted by Anthony, marking his first time publicly leading a project launch and the final interview segment completely turned into a gossip press conference. And when Selena called me on my dedicated phone for a video, I was watching the stars on the mountain. Charlotte, are you crazy playing this big? Her voice was a bit urgent, but I still maintained my usual tone, blowing in the night breeze, looking at the dancing flames, and said, congratulations, RW is trending. I see the Spirit Moon series is sold out online. The sales in stores should be good. Too, now the whole country knows about your jewelry brand. You know I'm not talking about that. She said, do you know how much impact this press conference? I've already dealt with your neighbors. Anthony's co-workers, including the owner of that private kitchen. Anthony's amnesia is related to the internal strife of the Han family, and the Han family won't let these dirty matters come to light, so this matter is considered over. Selena said, but I'm still worried about another thing. With the commotion you've caused, this time, the Liu family can't possibly overlook it. Aren't you afraid of Martin? If this is what you're worried about, you can first check the latest statement on the Liu Group's official website, I said with a smile. The Liu family actually claimed your identity as the second miss and appointed you to lead the Liu Group's new project. The new project of the Liu family is the chip collaboration project that the Han family has been vying for. She was taken aback, suddenly looking at me. You used me, you messed up Anthony's project launch, and your real goal was to help the Liu Group secure this chip project. How can you say that? I replied with a smile. Anthony wants to take advantage of the momentum from the marriage alliance between Han Liu to secure the chip collaboration project, and I need to return to the Liu family, which requires a token of loyalty. You also know that Martin and I are not from the same mother. Now that the Liu family has secured the project, your brand is booming and you've taken advantage of the clarification to obtain the management rights of the Liu family's hotel line from your cousin. And now that I've returned to the Liu family with my support and that of the Liu family, you don't have to worry about your cousin and Anthony teaming up. This can be said to be a win-win-win situation. I maintained a relaxed expression. No wonder. The Han family couldn't control the public opinion at the beginning, it turns out. You had already connected with the Liu family. Yes, without Liu family's support. How could the public opinion have escalated to such an extent without leaking any other information? Selena let out a long sigh before smiling. It seems I've chosen the right side. Thank you, I said seriously. This matter would have been much more difficult without your help. Selena looked at me. Forget it, if it weren't for you back then, I wouldn't know what kind of life my mom and I would be living in Liu's family now. Besides, you're right, the title of Mrs. Han doesn't sound as pleasant as Mr. Liu. By the way, it wasn't convenient for you to live in that old neighborhood? I have already sent your sister to the hotel at my house, but given your current situation, you should probably return to Liu's house first, Selena asked. Yes, so my sister will need to trouble you for a few more days. I will send someone to pick her up in a couple of days, I said. All right then, let's work together happily. Let's work together happily. The car drove through the Liu family garden and stopped at the entrance of the old Liu house. Second miss, the lady and the young master are in the flower house, the steward said to me. Okay, I nodded slightly. When I arrived at the flower house, Martin was sitting at a small round table, reading financial reports, while Liu's mother was trimming the flower branches beside him. I took a deep breath and stepped forward. Aunt Mu, brother, you're back. Aunt Mu put down the scissors, turned around with a smile and glanced at Martin. I had someone airlifted lobsters. The previous chef was replaced and I don't know if the new one meets your taste. I'll go check. Thank you, Aunt Mu, I said. Aunt Mu gave me a knowing look. It's fine, your brother isn't angry with you. Okay. I nodded gently. After Aunt Mu left, I lowered my head and walked over to Martin. Brother. Martin glanced at me and said, where's the proposal? I quickly took out my phone and sent the proposal I had been working on in the mountains these past few days to his email. Martin opened it, looking down, his long black eyelashes blocking his view. The air was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. After a long pause, he finally spoke. I won't be involved in the new project. If you can't handle it, I'll find someone else. I understand. I immediately responded. The atmosphere returned to its previous quiet state. I lowered my gaze to the edge of the glass table, afraid to speak or leave. Why didn't you come back when Dad passed away? I don't know how long it had been. Martin's clear voice suddenly rang out, and I looked up to meet his gaze hidden behind gold-rimmed glasses. Actually, I came back on the day of Dad's funeral, I said. He quietly stared into my eyes, his dark pupils swirling with an indescribable emotion, and after a while, he finally parted his lips to take a shallow breath and stood up, saying, let's go to the restaurant. I nodded and followed him. Just like when I first arrived at Liu's house. At that time, my mom's robbery news was seen by Liu's father. My mom was transferred to a hospital under the Liu family, while I was taken back to the Liu house by Liu's father. At that time, like everyone else, I thought I was Liu father's illegitimate daughter. This made me afraid to make any requests of anyone in the Liu house. I only dared to stare blankly in the direction of the Liu garden gate, wanting to know about my mom's situation. In the end, I noticed Martin was paying attention to me. So as long as Martin was in the Liu house, I followed him closely, neither too far nor too close, and remained silent, just following, until he took the initiative to have the driver take me to the hospital. My biological mother was the first student from their small county school to be admitted to B University. When he was young, Liu's father fell in love with my mother at a B University alumni event, but that was not a romantic beginning. My mother was born into a family that valued sons over daughters. She was able to attend university entirely thanks to the help of her high school homeroom teacher, who prevented her from being married off by her parents for a bride price right after graduating from middle school. It was only shortly after she finished her college entrance examination that her teacher passed away from pancreatic cancer. After she was admitted to university, she was solely focused on scientific research, studying anti-cancer drugs, and had no interest in dating. She even looked down on Liu father's youthful debauchery. But so what? As long as there is money, my mother's parents would force her to drop out and send her to Liu's father's bed. My mother had resigned herself to this fate. But just when she was pregnant with her first child, Liu father married into the Lin family. My mother lost her first child because of this. Later she escaped from Begarden with the help of Aunt Moo, while Lu's father was abroad on business. She gave birth to me in a small town, and raised me there until I was 8 until she made the news, due to a home invasion robbery. How is it, does it suit your taste? Aunt Moo served me a piece of beef. I nodded, but couldn't help saying, Aunt Moo, I'm sorry. It's good that you can come back, what's past is past, she said. Aunt Moo, come try this soup again. Aunt Moo personally served me a bowl of thick soup. But Martin furrowed his brow and couldn't help but remember Mom Charlotte doesn't eat mushrooms. Ah really? Aunt Moo smiled meaningfully, put down the soup, and winked at me, saying, after all, your brother is attentive. I didn't dare to respond, just looked at Martin. Martin let out a helpless sigh and turned to the steward beside him, saying, Aunt Xiao, have the kitchen bake a pineapple pie and send it to the second Mrs. Room later. By the way, our Charlotte loved to eat this when we were kids. Aunt Moo said. Thank you, brother, I said softly. Martin responded with an unchanged expression. Aunt Moo and I both laughed. After dinner, I returned to my room, which was still arranged the same as before. I opened the drawer of my desk where I found the homework I had written back then along with some used items. However, it was dust-free, indicating that someone had been cleaning regularly. Charlotte, Aunt Moo knocked and entered, glanced at the arrangement of my room, placed the pineapple pie on the edge of the desk and looked at my old certificates, saying if your mother knew you were also attending B University now, she would be very happy. Aunt Moo, I'm sorry about what happened back then. I apologize once again for my fake death and departure from the Lu family, deceiving her and Martin. I don't blame you, you were just a child back then. So much happened at once. And it's normal to be unable to accept it, she said, but I heard that Martin wants you to work on the new project for the company. Although I don't handle business matters, if you want to pursue research like your mother, I can talk to Martin about it. You can focus on your studies and not worry. It's okay, this project is supposed to collaborate with our school's Microelectronics Research Institute. My advisor will also participate. I'm just going to learn a few things, it won't affect my studies, I explained. That's good. About your Lin aunt's daughter, Martin has also told me we support whatever you want to arrange. Aunt Moo said, this might also be fate, this aunt shares the same surname Lin as your mother. Thank you, Aunt Moo, silly child. Aunt Moo patted my head just like when I was a child, reminding me. Eat the pie, brush your teeth well, and rest early. Okay, I know, Aunt Moo, you should also rest early. The next day, after arranging Cecilia, I bought a plane ticket for Maria to return to Beijing, and then went back to school to report my absence to my advisor. When I came out of the lab, I happened to run into Anthony, though I wasn't sure if he was waiting for me, but I didn't give him a chance to get close. I directly got into the Lu family's car and left the scene. It wasn't until a few days later at a party that we met again. Amanda, while I was outside getting some fresh air, he pulled me aside and asked, why didn't you tell me you are the Lu family's second miss? Does that matter? I retorted, or are you saying that if you had known I was from the Lu family you wouldn't have done those disgusting things? Anthony's expression stiffened slightly, but he still said, that's not what I meant. Everything I've done is because I didn't want to lose you. So what does Mr. Han want to do now? I said coldly. Amanda, if you are willing to trust me one more time, I promise you that once the Han and Liu projects are over, I will break off my engagement with Selena, and then, what kind of remarkable gift is your marriage? Anthony, do you think too highly of yourself? I interrupted him. Amanda, I truly hope you can give me another chance. Is that so? I retorted. Anthony sincerely said, Amanda, I really love you. Well then you can leave everything behind at the Han family and go to Hong Kong. I'll take care of you from now on. If you agree, I'll give you another chance. Anthony was taken aback, and a layer of displeasure immediately clouded his face. I scoffed lightly, what's wrong, don't you want to? It turns out that even Mr. Han doesn't like the life of a pampered canary where everything is handed to you on a silver platter. Amanda, Anthony's voice carried a hint of anger. Charlotte, Anthony, what are you two talking about? At that moment, Selena walked over with a glass of champagne. I laughed and said, it's nothing, Mr. Han wants to go to Hong Kong. Selena curled her lips and looked at Anthony. Is that so? But I haven't had much time to accompany you lately? It's fine. Anthony smiled at her and made an excuse to leave to meet an old client. After Anthony left, Selena looked at me. This game isn't that interesting. Do you want to come over to my place for a bit? Sure. In Selena's spacious apartment. Did you hear everything Anthony just said? I asked Selena while leaning on the leather sofa. Selena didn't deny it, only smiling and saying, who knows who will dump whom first. I agree. She looked at me and sighed, but I never expected that someone like Martin would let you off the hook after you faked your death to deceive him. You don't understand, I said. I really don't. She replied, don't mention my half-brothers, even my cousins, who crawled out of the same womb scheme and plot against each other for their own interests, wishing they could see the other dead. Yet Martin can tolerate you returning to Liu family to share in the spoils. I smiled and asked, by the way, has your cousin made any moves with Anthony recently? It's mainly about the projects between the two families. But my cousin has been meeting with experts in the new energy sector lately. I don't know if it has anything to do with Han's side. Okay, I'll have someone keep an eye on it. If there are any issues, I'll let you know. Thank you then. Selena stretched out on the sofa and yawned. Is it tiring to reorganize Lue's hotel business lately? I asked. It is tiring. She half closed her eyes and smiled, but this is the first time in my life that I've been this happy while being tired. Having power in my own hands really makes a difference. This feeling is far more wonderful than being in love. She opened her eyes and looked at me. As long as you like it, I said with a raised eyebrow and a smile. After that, Anthony stopped bothering me, and I focused most of my energy on projects and the lab. Until the shareholders' meeting of the Liu family the following year, I was still in the lab organizing data when I suddenly received a call from Secretary Lin, who was with Martin. I picked up the phone and on the other end was Martin's voice. Charlotte, don't be afraid, I'm here for you. At that moment, I realized someone had leaked information about my biological mother online, revealing that I was not the biological daughter of Liu's father. Oh my, this is really shocking. Charlotte is not only an illegitimate child, but also the wild offspring born from her mother with other men. This mother is quite something, not only being a mistress, but also cuckolding Mr. Liu. It's truly explosive. Reports say her mother has a mental illness. Won't that be hereditary? How can the Liu family allow someone with potential mental illness risks to be the project leader? I looked at the various opinions online, clenched my palms, and took several deep breaths to calm myself down a bit. Brother, I'm fine, I'll figure this out. No need to investigate. As soon as I finished speaking, Selena rushed in, throwing a stack of documents in front of me. It's Anthony. Anthony. Martin whispered on the other end of the phone, then said to me, your friend has arrived, so you two can talk first. Remember, we are always family. Brother, thank you. Don't worry, I will handle everything, I said. Martin seemed to sigh lightly. Since you want to solve this yourself, I will let Assistant Lin go back today. Any decision you make, Liu will cooperate. After hanging up the phone, Selena pulled me into her car. I flipped through the materials she brought in the car, exclaiming, I didn't expect Anthony to be able to get these things. He is just seizing this point, questioning the legitimacy of your involvement in the Liu project and trying to bring you down during the Liu shareholders meeting. No wonder he has been in contact with several shareholders of Liu recently. This man is really something. He keeps saying how much he loves you, yet he hasn't done a single decent thing. Selena asked, but you are really not a daughter of the Liu family? Didn't you ask me before why I didn't go all out against Anthony? I spoke softly. Let me tell you a story. I started with my mother being targeted by Liu father, talking about how she escaped with the help of Aunt Mu, only to be found by Liu father again due to a robbery case. My biological mother, who suffered a brain injury in that robbery case, sometimes confused, sometimes clear. At first, I also thought I was Liu father's illegitimate daughter, and no one in the Liu family exposed the truth. Liu father acted out of guilt, and also because he wanted to control my biological mother through me. And Aunt Mu is sympathetic. Although she comes from a prestigious family, she, like my mother, is unable to decide her own life, having to follow her family's arrangements, giving up her artistic pursuits to marry Mr. Liu. And my brother, I recall the first time I saw him, perhaps I just clung to him with no other choice. But no matter what, at that time, I truly felt like I had a home. I said this may sound a bit ungrateful, because my mother is actually a very good mom. Although she had to live a hard life to avoid the Liu family, she indeed gave me a childhood filled with love. But a single mother who is pregnant out of wedlock with a child and living in poverty inevitably has to face some difficulties and malice in this society. That year I was 7 years old, just starting elementary school, and I could already understand the disparities in this world. At that time, there was a classmate whose parent was the manager of the only chain supermarket in town. His parents enrolled him in an English tutoring class when he was in kindergarten. At that time, I thought it was impressive that he could speak a few simple sentences in English, even when he invited us to his birthday party at his home. It was my first time taking an elevator. I was so anxious that even pressing the elevator Button required mental preparation. I felt that the classmate who could casually press the floor button was surrounded by an aura. But later, when I arrived at the Liu family, I had the best foreign teachers and could spend a long time abroad every year. In just 2 years, not only could I communicate in English, but I could also speak in French with many words I didn't even recognize yet I could already say. At that moment I understood that many things in this world are unattainable for the poor not because they don't work hard enough. Especially on my 10th birthday, my father Liu bought a yacht in my name and threw a birthday party on it. At that party I was the only master able to control everything on the yacht. It was the first time I truly understood what power is. I also felt more acutely what it means to be born at the bottom. Because of the lack of material resources and environment, and how life is limited by the inability to afford the cost of trial and error. I really don't want to go back to my old environment. I paused, and after a while, I spoke again. So this is how I ended up causing my mother's death. Selena was stunned, seemingly at a loss for words. And I just continued to recount that past. After my mother was taken back to the Liu family, she lived in B Garden with dedicated medical care. As for me, due to my own performance, I increasingly gained recognition from Liu's father, receiving more power from him. Although my mother was injured in the head, she understood my thoughts. So even though she didn't want to stay in the Liu family, she never showed it in front of me. And I took a deep breath. She didn't say anything. So I pretended not to know. I thought life would continue like that forever. Until that day when my mom suddenly begged me to take her away from the Liu family. That was the first time she asked me for help, but I didn't answer her.
I just asked her if she left the Liu family and fell ill. What should I do? Should I continue my studies or take care of her? She fell silent, and after a long pause, she finally said, "Yeah, how could I be so selfish? I thought that was the end of it." But that night she fell ill and jumped from the top floor of Bai Garden. Afterward, I learned that her research institute had officially declared bankruptcy and closed that day. At that moment, I remembered that when I first arrived at the Liu family, my only wish was to protect my mother and never let her be bullied again. But I have changed because of capital and power. I have become arrogant and self-righteous. I think my choices are the most rational and the best for everyone. I did not protect my mother for the sake of power, status, and capital. I ignored her, suffering. Using her illness and the excuse that this is good for everyone, I ignored her pleas for help and became an accomplice in her oppression. She has a drawer, and inside, besides the photos of me from childhood, are all the clippings she cut out about that research institute. But that day her ideals were completely shattered, and her most beloved daughter betrayed her. Charlotte. Selena reached out to hold the back of my hand. I realized that efficiency, profit, and power are not everything in life. But at that time, I didn't know what I wanted after losing my mother. I said so I designed my departure from Liu's family, but encountered Aunt Lin. Poverty can really bring out the worst in human nature, but Aunt Lin made me realize that even in such an environment, there are still people who will scrape together a little from their own food money to help you. Conscience is unrelated to class, and virtue is unrelated to knowledge. In these years of living as an ordinary person, I have regained some things and started to clarify what I truly want to do. I returned to Liu's home because I didn't want to. Regretted after the people around me got hurt, but I also never intended to keep entangled with Anthony because I have my own life goals. "So what about now?" Selena asked. "It seems you are willing to let Anthony go, but Anthony clearly doesn't want to let you go." "Yeah." I turned and looked straight into her eyes. "So you should cut ties with Anthony as soon as possible." "What do you mean?" She looked at me with a questioning gaze. I said lightly, "The Liu family has a family motto which is to be prepared for the unexpected. Although I initially did not plan to fight to the death with Anthony, I could not do anything against a potential enemy. For the past 2 years, I have been keeping an eye on the Han family, and Anthony and I have also placed some people within the Han family. With what I have on hand, combined with the strength of the Liu family, it is enough to make Anthony drink a bitter cup. I calculated the timing and released a statement from the Liu family before the Han family was investigated. I explained that my mother and Liu father had a romantic relationship, but they had already separated after Liu father got married. Later, my mother and I returned to the Liu family because my mother suffered a brain injury in a robbery and could not take care of herself, so the Liu family took us back to care for her. At the same time, I had posted the adoption agreement that Liu's father had arranged through a lawyer, indicating that I was originally just an adopted daughter of the Liu family. After doing all this, I returned to the Liu family's Bai garden. Sitting in the room where my mother lived before her death, I stared blankly at the photos of her and me from my childhood. I know this is the best time to uncover everything my mother went through back then. But if I do that, what will happen to Aunt Mu and Martin? What about all those who have worked so hard for the new project? Do you feel guilty? Aunt Mu appeared by my side without me noticing. She sat down, took my hand, glanced at the person in the photo and said with a bitter smile, "This is what you have to go through while sitting in your current position. To protect the interests of the company and the majority sacrificing oneself, sacrificing family, sacrificing emotions, and even sacrificing the truth. I don't know how to advise you because I myself haven't figured out what the right thing to do is. But there's something I want to give you." Aunt Mu pulled out a photo which was of me giving a speech as the student representative during my middle school days. "This is the day your mom asked me to secretly take her out of Bee Garden to see you give your speech," Aunt Mu said. I looked at the image of myself, then flipped it over to see the familiar handwriting on the back. "May my darling become the best version of herself, hold her head high, and live a life without regrets." Mom. Tears streamed. Down uncontrollably from my eyes, Aunt Mu reached out and pulled me into her embrace. "She has always been proud of you." When Anthony and the project leaders were taken away to assist in the investigation, I had the documents regarding the internal strife of the Han family released. This involves criminal cases such as contract killing, kidnapping, and extortion. Although Anthony was a victim in that incident, it was enough to damage the reputation of the Han family. Moreover, the means of retaliation that Anthony employed also involved nearly half of the criminal law. In an instant, public opinion was in an uproar. At the same time, news about some projects that had been under pressure from the Han family exploding also continuously topped the trending searches. Selena cooperated very well, not only calling off her engagement with Anthony, but also bringing out the projects of the Liu Han families. This struck a blow to the Han family and also harmed her cousin. Once I completely ignited the lines I had buried in the Han family over the past 2 years, the Han family's capital chain would soon break. I also represented the Liu family in expressing to the Liu family that the Liu family could accept the mess caused by the Han family's deficit and become the new partner of the Liu family. But the premise is that the project must be handled by Selena. And Selena has taken over most of the Liu family, dealing with the Han family even more aggressively than I do. She said confidently, "Since we've already torn our faces, of course, I have to take advantage of his weakness, otherwise should I wait for him to recover and then bite me back? Besides, isn't this what you taught me back then?" "Indeed." And I gave a thumbs up. Congratulations. Greater things come from humble beginnings. Meanwhile, Martin also returned from abroad and completely reorganized some people within the Liu family who had dealings with the Han family. Under such high pressure, the Han family could only sell off assets and technology to barely survive. Coincidentally, the fields that the Han family and the Liu family were involved in overlapped, so we acquired many of the Han family's core assets and technologies at a low price. The day the news broke, Anthony was sentenced to 15 years for multiple crimes. Selena was so happy that she invited me to drink champagne during the day. After all, she is now truly the CEO Liu. "I heard that Anthony has always wanted to see you, but you refused." Selena asked, "Don't you want to hear his words of repentance?" I shook my head with a smile. In terms of relationships, I never look back. From Anthony's choice to enter into a marriage alliance, everything between him and me had already ended. What followed was his persistent entanglement, a self-inflicted consequence. "So, you don't plan to continue managing Liu's estate?" Selena asked. "I still want to do research," I said. "Everything about the Liu family never belonged to me, and compared to Charlotte, I prefer being Amanda." "All right, with your brains you can do anything." As Selena spoke, she signed a check and shoved it into my hand. "What is this?" I chuckled. If you are trying to support my research funding, then no need. I have made quite a bit this time, and with the shares I hold, money is not an issue. It's the commission from when you helped me sell products before. With a tipsy smile, she pointed to the earrings on her ears leaning on my shoulder. Let me tell you one more thing, actually. When I helped the underprivileged students back then, it was indeed to put on a show in front of you, hoping to use you to help me and my mom escape the predicament at Lou's house. But later, do you know who my secretary is? It's the girl I gave sanitary napkins to back then. Over the years, it was she who accompanied me through the ups and downs of the Lou family, and 3 years ago she even saved my life. It was also because of her that I established my own charity foundation after coming of age, and the reason I was able to take over the Lou family so quickly this time is because of the students I have sponsored over the years, who have entered various departments of the Lou family. So I apologize for the remarks I made about class that were aimed at you, which I said intentionally for Anthony. I walked out of Selena's club. Cecilia happily rushed over and hugged my waist, saying, "Sister Maria and I came to pick you up." Maria was standing in front of her newly bought small car. "Amanda, hurry up. Aunt Lynn said she is almost at our doorstep, and she brought the Australian beef that just arrived by air today. Hot pot, here we come." Once in the car, Maria immediately stepped on the gas happily.